I'm Sheila Corona. Welcome back to the Jeshua Channelings by Pamela Kribbe. For those of you that are following along with me, I'm on page 181, the chapter Sexuality and Spirituality. Dear friends, and I want to say this, I haven't been saying this enough. This one is the 18th video. It's the 18th chapter. The 18th channeling. If you found this as a standalone, on the channel there is a playlist, and you can begin at the beginning of the book with the preface and go all the way through. Okay, so pardon me, I have a little bit of a post-nasal drip today, and it's raining, and I feel a bit achy, but I also feel passionate about getting this recording out. So when the energy is present, I feel that that's when I'm to, do it. So here we go. Dear friends, I rejoice at being with you again. When I see you, I do not so much see you as the physical bodies that you look at in the mirror. It is your inside that I feel and see, the inner movements of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I am here to support you on your journey. There is a theme that I would like to discuss today that has had a great impact on you throughout your history on Earth. It is about sexuality and how it is experienced by men and women. Now, I personally have long thought that we have a misunderstanding about what we would term the titillation of the physical vessel as, lust or sex. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. For me, there was always something missing, and I feel like this is going to explain that, if that makes any sense. This is not an easy subject. Sexuality has become burdened with many judgments, fears, and emotions. Hardly any aspect of it is spontaneous and self-evident anymore. This is the same as saying that the childlike aspect of sexuality, the aspect of the freely exploring innocent child, has become lost. You are full of fear and tension when it comes to sexually expressing yourself. I want to address this burden in this channeling, but first I'd like to say a little about what sexuality means from a spiritual perspective. Sexuality is the dancing together of male and female energies. Originally, sexuality was more than a physical act. It was meant to be a dance in which all levels or aspects of you and your partner participate. I will distinguish among 4 levels or aspects that can play a role in this dance of energies. 4 aspects of the sexual experience. First, there is the physical level, the aspect of the physical body. The body is innocent. The body knows sexual desire and lust, and this is something that is spontaneously present within the body. And I myself, being single and having been on my own, totally my own now, since 2017, from a 28.5-year marriage, I can assure you that those same sensations of lust and desire happen without touch because of the energy. This is why I'm feeling like there's something more to it, right? I'm going to read this again. First, there is the physical level, the aspect of the physical body. The body is innocent. The body knows sexual desire and lust, And this is something that is spontaneously present within the body. The body seeks gratification of its desires, and it is the human or the soul consciousness in the human that determines the way in which the sexual desire is applied and manifested. Again, the body is innocent. It knows lust and desire. There is nothing wrong with that. It can be a source of fun, play, and enjoyment, but the body cannot itself choose in what way it is going to express its sexual energy. Pardon me. It is you, the human being, who is in charge, and the body needs your leadership. When you would like to experience sexuality in the most loving way, the seat of leadership will be in the heart. When you let your heart take charge of your sexual energy, it will find its most joyful expression. The alternative is to let either your thoughts, and in parentheses, judgments, or your emotions rule the sexual flow, and you will see that this will cause several blockages in your energy. But I will speak of this below. The second aspect of the sexual dance I wish to distinguish is the emotional level. The sexual union is a deeply emotional act. If you ignore this aspect, you are not fully present in the act, and you cut yourself off from the real meaning of sexuality. In a previous channeling called Dealing with Emotions, we have gone into the issue of emotions extensively. We highlighted the powerful emotions of fear, anger, and sadness, and discussed how they can take you out of your center. When any of these powerful emotions is working in a relationship between two people, and they are not consciously recognized and addressed, it will come up when they are intimate together. These emotions may cause psychological reactions of resistance or closing down when you are physically intimate, or the body may be unable to feel lust or excitement. And this I can attest to. Absolutely attest to. When there is something unresolved that's triggering trauma back and forth, this right here absolutely happens. And it happened without my consciously being aware of it in my relationship towards the end. Whenever there are these psychological or physical blockages, it is important to deal with them at the level at which they have arisen, the emotional level. When you try to take away physical symptoms without looking at the underlying emotional dynamic, and I know I was just flashed, that's part of what's problem with the medical industry. I was just flashed that whole thing that I've been through with the medical industry and what happened to me in particular. Wow. Without looking at the underlying anything. Wow. I'm going to read that again. When you take away physical symptoms without looking at the underlying emotional dynamic, you are disrespectful of yourself and your body. When the body resists intimacy, it gives you a message, pure and clear, that there is an emotional blockage. This may be due to a problem between you and your partner, or it may be an emotional hurt you carry with you from the past. Whatever it is, and usually it's a mixing of both, because something has triggered the past issue. I mean, that's what it was for me. So I can't, everybody's different. Whatever it is, it needs to be addressed and taken care of in a gentle and loving way before the sexual energy can flow freely. And unfortunately, if one partner is ready to look at their trauma and the other is not, doesn't even think that the trauma from their past affects them in the now, there again, nobody, you can't change anybody. And people got to want to see that they are traumatized first. Being open to realizing that, hey, yeah, I have been traumatized. And hey, yeah, so is everybody else on the whole planet. So, wow, let's take a beat here. There's nothing wrong with that. And I say that everyone will come to it in their own timing if they choose. And I got no stake in anybody's game. You get to choose how you want to move through this whole experience here. Next to the emotional level is the level of the heart, which is the seat of feeling. In the same channeling I mentioned, dealing with emotions, we distinguished between emotions and feelings. Feelings belong to the domain of intuition and inner knowing. Your feeling side speaks to you through quiet whispers filled with wisdom and compassion. Emotions are more dramatic in nature, and we called them, quote, reactions of misunderstandings. Actually, they called them explosions of misunderstandings and reactions of misunderstandings. And I say, anytime that happens, that is a trigger for me to look into me for trauma. Because now that I really get it, that we all have experienced everything completely from our own very unique perspective, which has been this lens that we peer through. Our perspective has been so colored by everything we've ever experienced because that's exactly correct. We are a culmination, when you think linearly, of all the experiences that we have access to, whether we have access here or we have access here. Sometimes the here gets pulled to here for me. This is what I call uh, alchemical epiphany. So, emotions are more dramatic in nature, and we call them reactions of misunderstanding. That's in quotes. For that is what they essentially are, explosions of not understanding what is happening to you. Why are you reacting this way? And we always seek to blame the triggerer instead of what's eating you, what set you off. Because that poor person just standing there saying something that set you off. It's somewhere in here. That's what I finally come to see for myself. When the heart opens up between sexual partners, there is trust, love, and safety between them. When the heart is present in a sexual meeting, you allow your intuition to take note of what is happening between you when you get physically intimate. You do not hide your emotions. You speak openly of them. Old pain may surface, and it is accepted as such. You are accepted as you are, and this kind of acceptance is the greatest healing power there is. When you connect your heart energy with your sexual energy, great healing can take place in an area that is much in need of it. However, the heart can also play a subtle role and preventing you from experiencing sexuality in a joyful, loving way. The heart may have closed itself off from the joy of sexuality for different reasons. First, there may be a desire in the heart to rise above the physical reality of earth. Second, there may be religious dogmas at work that keep the heart from opening up to what sexuality really is. I will address both of these issues now. The heart can have a strong inclination to rise above the dense plane of material reality. It is a kind of homesickness. There may be a longing there for unity that is not at all aimed at sexual union, but in fact carries within it a subtle rejection of the earth realm and of sexuality as well. Many of you know the desire to transcend this reality. Many of you remember the energy of love and harmony that you have experienced in non-material realms before you incarnated on earth. Your heart cries out for the ease and the lightness of this vibration. Try to drink in this energy when you meditate. Often the higher chakras are activated in this way, meaning the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown chakra. They open up while the lower three chakras, solar plexus, belly, and tailbone, which are vital to your earthly self, are more or less abandoned. In a more unnatural way, I need to mark that because that feels important there. This whole thing here, let me read that again because something feels to be coming in now. This is fully the third or fourth time I've read this book because we did it in book club. I did it for another channel I had, and I'm doing it now. I think I tried doing it once on another channel. I'm not sure, but this is the third or the fourth time I'm reading this. Many of you remember the energy of love and harmony that you have experienced in non-material realms before you incarnated on earth. Your heart cries out for the ease and the lightness of this vibration. You try to drink in this energy when you meditate. Often the higher chakras are activated in this way, meaning the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown chakra. They open up while the lower three chakras, the solar plexus, belly, and tailbone, which are vital to your earthly self, are more or less abandoned. We already have issues with abandonment. I wonder what that feels like within the vessel. In a more unnatural way, this also happens when you take drugs. When you take mind-expanding substances, the upper chakras are artificially ripped open, and you can temporarily experience ecstasy and bliss that make you forget the dense and heavy aspect of earth reality. Although the desire and the longing for transcendence are understandable, it is important to make peace with earth reality. Otherwise, you will create an artificial separation between the upper part and the lower part of your energy field. You will give preference to being in the upper part of your aura with your consciousness, and you will grow a subtle or overt resistance to the reality of the body, the emotions, and sexuality. And in truth, I realized some time ago that I'm not fully in here. I was not fully seated. And I like the way this is put because I see that as part of my running away thing, right? This creates an imbalance in your energy field. When you are homesick in this way, try to feel the reason and purpose for your being on earth right now. Your reason to be here is not to transcend earth, but to bring home down to earth. This is a sacred journey. And see, I have long felt that it's not that we're going back to unity. We've already done that. We know what that is. It's still there. We can go back anytime we want. No, this is still a way is being made for an entirely new uh, way of being in the vessel, knowing that you are also in unity at the same time, multidimensionally speaking. And I'm convinced that once all of the programming, conditioning that we've all, and trauma associated with said programming and conditioning, because that's how that works, there is no other way. Once we understand that we don't have the correct information in any sort of way about what any of our existence is or has been, and start approaching it like me for a quest, because it's different for each being too, trust as to how it will unfold. And that's why I like calling it a quest, because it is a sacred journey. This coming to know the truth of who and what we actually are, what this earth realm actually is, how so interdependent we actually are. There's a whole bunch flooding in right this second. The second reason for the heart to shy away from sexuality is religious dogmas, often from past lives, but it could also be from these lives too. Trust that. Hmm. There may have been lives in which you took vows of chastity, or in which you were taught to feel shame or guilt about bodily pleasure and sexuality. These energies may still linger in your heart. Because of them, you may have negative judgments about or subtle resistance to physical intimacy. These judgments and sentiments do not rest on truth. Again, I wish to say that the body itself is innocent. Lust, desire, and all the physical processes that make you long for sexual union are natural, healthy, always healthy processes. The imbalances that occur in the area of sexuality are almost always due to the non-physical levels of which I have now discussed. Of which I have discussed now. It says TWO. I don't know why it says that. I think that's a typo. The first and last level is the aspect of the mind. On the mental level, there can be moral or spiritual beliefs that keep you from enjoying sexuality. Most of these beliefs are religious in nature. On the spiritual level, you may feel that the physical body is a kind of prison. I've heard a lot of people say that. The non-physical reality of the, quote, higher realms, as you call them, not I, is so glorified that the physical reality gets undervalued. This occurs frequently among light workers, especially among them. There often is resistance to the pleasure and enjoyment that sexuality can provide. This stems partly from religious and moral beliefs, and partly from sheer inexperience with this aspect of life. Most lightworker souls have spent many lifetimes as priests, nuns, or similar roles, withdrawn from the community without a partner or family. Well, see, I think that's because there's been for me personally, what I saw within myself is it would seem that there are this assumption out there that anything material is beneath the enlightened, that it's not necessary, that it's base, that it's, but the truth is the whole point is not to get out of here. The whole point, because, well, there's a lot out there about, oh, this is a trap, and you have to want to get out. You got to get out so you don't have to come here again. And I don't think it's a have to situation. I think that's what they want you to think, that it's a have to situation. If this is a free will universe, this is a I want to get in there. This is a like a roller coaster ride kind of deal because over there, it's not a challenge, apparently. Outside this realm, it's not really a challenge to, oh, wow. And I also see where there's probably not as much friction to allow for new or spiritual growth, you see. Oh, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. Now I'm very dizzy about after that one. Wow, that was okay. There's a whole bunch opening up behind that. Very nice. So much I can barely see. Okay, I'm going to start this again. On the spiritual level, you may feel that the physical body is a kind of prison. The non physical reality of the quote higher realms, as you call them, not I, is so glorified that the physical reality gets undervalued. This occurs frequently among light workers, especially among them. There is often is resistance to the pleasure and enjoyment that sexuality can provide. This stems partly from religious and moral beliefs and partly from sheer inexperience with this aspect of life. Most lightworker souls have spent many lifetimes as priests, nuns, or similar roles withdrawn from the community without a partner or family. They focused so much on the spiritual that the area of sexuality was neglected. In spiritual or religious people, there is often a lack of respect for the body in its natural expression. This is truly regrettable, for it is the expression into matter that is regarded on our side to be the most sacred journey for a soul to go on. This is partly why I feel like this is a quest, man. This body is the divinity's expression of creativity into its creation. It does a disservice to not see this. I really, wow, that is so cool that it was described that way. I never got it exactly that way till just now. To sow and reap the seeds of your divinity so far away from home in the reality of matter and form is a sacred undertaking. It is a divine creative act of the highest order. Yeah, I've long suspected that we create our reality as we move. It doesn't take any consciousness at all. And we can control it once we become fully seated and know with all of us who and what we are. That's what the experiment for me is, working towards the Christ consciousness, taking him at his word that the least among you can do these things I do and more. Wow. Perhaps you have at some time been present at someone's deathbed or you have witnessed a childbirth. In those moments, the souls enters or lets go of the dance with matter. Both points in time are surrounded by an atmosphere of sacredness. You can sense this as a deep, enveloping silence with filled with honor, which announces the coming or leaving of the soul. There is but the deepest respect on our side of the veil for what you do at those moments. The dance with matter is sacred, and you detest it so often. Sexuality, in its true meaning, is a dance in matter which at the same time rises above matter. In a balanced sexual self-expression, you transcend material reality without ignoring or repressing it, without abandoning the lower three chakras, and without seeking ecstasy only through the upper chakras. Complete sexuality integrates all levels of your being. Sexuality bridges the gap between matter and spirit. When two people are physically intimate in a loving way, all the cells in their body vibrate a little faster. They start to dance a little. A gateway is opened to an energetic reality with a slightly higher vibration and a lighter feeling. After a sexual joining in which all of you participates, your body, soul, and mind, you feel peaceful and joyful at the same time. There is a quiet ecstasy. The cells of your body have tasted the energy of love, and in that moment, you brought the reality of love a little closer to you. You channeled the divine energy of love that so dearly wishes to flow through you and that has only the greatest respect for your sexual nature. You see, that's what I mean when I say, yes, that happens when you fully open yourself with another being. But I have also felt that on my own, just in meditation. So I feel as though, in many ways, it feels like that's something yet to be explored in many ways. I'm not real sure how that works, but if the energy on all four levels flows together in a sexual joining, it is an act of divine creation. That children are being born from such an act is only natural. When the dance of male and female is performed in such a joyous way, only goodness and sweetness can come of it. If a child is conceived in such a way, it enters the earth realm on a slide of love and light. It is the most loving welcome that a soul can have on earth. Because the sexual energies are so precious, we ask you, please deal respectfully with your sexuality. When there are problems, fears, or tensions around it, do not judge sexuality in itself or give up on it, for it is a natural part of you and a sacred one. Sexual problems and the battle of the sexes. I would now like to go into the history of sexuality and then say something about the specific problems that women and men experience nowadays in their sexual self-expression. Much has happened in the area of the sexual. At its core, sexuality carries a great potential of light. But because of that, there is also the potential for great misuse. The history I wish to speak of is one of the power struggle between men and women. This history is ancient and actually began at the time when the extraterrestrial galactic empires started to interfere with life on Earth. See Part 1 of the Lightworker series for a detailed account of this process. And again, if you are just catching this as a standalone, that is one of the previous chapters of the book. Before that, Earth was a kind of paradise, a Garden of Eden in which beauty and innocence prevailed. We will not discuss this era here, but will simply note that you are in the end phase of a power struggle that is much older than the 5,000 years of written history. In the last stage of this history, men clearly played the role of perpetrator and oppressor. But it was not always so. There have been times in which the woman was much more powerful in the public as well as the private domain of life. She oppressed the male energy as well in cruel and sadistic ways. Woman is not naturally the oppressed or subdued sex, nor is she by definition the most loving sex. Your stereotypes of women as sweet but powerless, and of men as tough but insensitive, say more about the last phase of the above mentioned history than about men and women as such. There have at times predating written history in which matriarchal societies were regarded as standard. And that actually can still be seen by the way different cultures, if I'm not mistaken, still recognize the maternal line, Spanish, the Hispanic, if I'm not mistaken, culture uses the mother's maiden name as part of I think it's the last name. I'm not sure how this works, but if I'm not mistaken, that is a holdover from this time that they're speaking on here, and the same goes for another culture as well, and I can't remember which one, but where they come through the mother's line. That's a holdover. In those times, women also used their energies in a destructive way, being disrespectful of the individual life force and creativity in each human being. There was a time when women had power over men. Women controlled and manipulated men by using the powers of emotion and intuition that they have a natural affinity with. They also used their psychic abilities to control men. For example, there were sacrifices and rituals where men were tortured and killed. I want to stress for your official history that this aspect draws a one-sided picture. Oh, I know what it was. The Vikings. Yeah, everybody there was a guys in charge, but the females owned and did just the same. It was and that's a holdover too. Mm, mm. And the Cherokee, that's the Cherokee too. Women, for the longest time, were the only ones who owned property. They chose their husbands. It wasn't the other way around. The oppression of women by man has been evident for the whole period covered by your written history. But the grudge and hatred that men have displayed, and may still display, against women has not come from nothing. In addition to the cultural traditions and habits that influence them, there are also deep emotional wounds in the male collective soul that stem from a much older era. And the fact that babies even now all begin female, only some, they begin female and then they change into male. That's just the way it goes. I feel harkens back to a time when there probably was nothing but females. Without going into detail about this era, I would like to invite you to feel for yourself whether it is possible that you experienced this. For women, the question is, can you imagine that you exerted power over men once and that you successfully tried to control their energy? And for men, the question is, can you imagine that this took place on a large scale and that you were, quote, the weaker sex? Maybe you will receive certain images or fantasies by asking this question inside yourself. Let your intuition show you and watch the emotions that surface. This may be surprising. And I would actually love to hear in the comments if you do this and what you get, and if you'd like to come and have a conscious conversation with me about it. I would absolutely adore that because this is a huge topic and there's so much to discuss about it. I've always wanted to have conscious, respectful conversations about this topic in regards to consciousness and the fact that we are evolving our consciousness. Perhaps now is the time that folks can find a way to do that. Within the collective male, soul, hatred, and resentment had arisen because of this ancient history. This has come out in oppression of the female energy in the area of politics, but also in the area of religion, particularly through the area of through the church. The idea that sexuality is sinful or at best a necessary evil, is a male line of thinking that was influenced by hatred and grudges resulting from the repression of male sexuality in another era. Male sexuality was at that time considered to be an instrument for procreation without respect for the feeling side of men and the emotional ties between a father and his children. Often children were raised by the mother in separation from the father, and hardly any attention was paid to what the father thought and wanted. Important values were passed on through the mother figure, and the inferiority of men was one such value. Man as a workhorse rather than an equal partner. In addition to the church being a bulwark of frustrated male energy, the world of science also plays hostility to the female energy. Although science and religion are in many respects natural enemies, they are united in their resistance to the intuitive, flowing aspect of the female energy. The church dogmas are rigid and stifling, but the scientific method is limiting too, in another manner. While the impetus behind the modern science was enlightening and innovative in the desire to dethrone false authority, it has gotten stuck in a narrow kind of rational thinking that doesn't allow the female energy to participate, meaning the intuitive feeling side of what actually is. Mm-hmm. The interconnectedness of everything. Okay. Now I was also just flashed that that's what is also behind the compartmentalization of uh, information, right? There isn't a holistic doctor anymore. Things are only looked at. You have specializing, where we're only looking at this over here and we're not seeing how that over there affects that over there, because everything actually is interdependent, but that we've taken this separation gig so far that we are that science it tends to not allow for that interdependence, and some of it looks like magic uh, when you don't want folks to know the truth of who they are. Scientific thinking is analytical and logical, but it does not open up enough to the imagination and to extrasensory or intuitive sources of observation. That's the interconnectedness. The aversion that many scientists have to the quote paranormal and to anything that cannot be explained by rational reasoning is, however, partly due to a soul memory of pain and humiliation dating back to a time when psychic powers were abused by women and were used against them as an instrument of manipulation. I speak of this ancient history because I would like to make clear that in the quote, battle of the sexes, there are ultimately no offenders and victims, no quote, good guys and bad guys, because you all have been both. It has been a struggle between the male and female energies in which these energies became opposites, whereas they originally were complementary to each other. In this day and age, both men and women are invited to join forces again and to rediscover the joy and honor of the original dance of female and male. Essentially, the female energy is leading and inspiring, while the male energy is serving and protecting. The female energy is the inspiration behind any creation. The male aspect takes care of the manifestation in form and action. Both energies work through every human, through every individual, whether male or female. Whether you are a man or a woman is not really relevant. It is the balance and relationship between both energies within you that counts. Blockages in female sexuality. I will now speak of energy blockages in the area of sexuality which specifically apply to women or men. In women, it is the area of the first and second chakra, the tailbone and umbilicus, or the sacral, the root and sacral chakras, right? That is most battered. Okay, so I will now speak of energy blockages in the area of sexuality which specifically apply to women or men. In women, it is the area of the first and second chakra that is most battered and hurt as a result of sexual oppression and violence over the centuries. For quite some millennia, women have been framed into a subservient role in almost all areas of society, and this still goes for many places on earth. With regard to sexuality, this inequality manifested as rape, assault, and humiliation on a large scale. As a result of this, many women, indeed, the collective female soul, have suffered incredibly. There are deep emotional wounds which need time, love, and utmost care to heal. Often, the drive for sexual union is felt by women as a longing of the heart or a spiritual feeling. But when they get physically intimate, they may find that they cannot express their sexual energy freely because of energy blockages in the first and second chakra. In those energy centers, there are soul memories of sexuality that was forced upon them and humiliated them. These experiences were so painful that the woman withdrew her energy, her consciousness from the area of the belly. When this part of the body is now approached again in a sexual way, the muscles instinctively tighten, or the emotional body automatically signals resistance. The physical cells are aware of the trauma and do not go along so easily with the invitation to dance. They want to shut off and create a barrier to protect you from more aggression. This reaction is utterly understandable and should always be dealt with in a most respectful way. Using any kind of force to take away the resistance is, in a way, violating the hurt centers again. This makes so much sense. It's actually the exact same once triggered for anything, any sort of trauma. And with this, body is innocent. Wow. And having had rape as part of my early, well, late childhood past, uh, I don't know. That's just it ringing real. I got a different bit from it this time than I did before. Hmm. When you have these emotions as a woman, it is very important to become fully aware of them. I don't think I understood the withdrawing of the energy from the chakras just now and how it related to the vessel, but I'm clearly seeing that now, how that works. Wow. Whew, man. When you have these emotions as a woman, it is very important to become fully aware of them. There may be anger there, resistance, or fear with regard to physical intimacy, and all of these emotions are often older than the relationship you are in, older even than this lifetime. And so, if there's been anything in this lifetime as well, for me, I would say that, because we are an accumulation of everything that's ever transpired for the vessel cellularly, for genetics, and for the soul spiritually, because that's eternal. Wow. There may be very old traumas in those lowest chakras that have caused deep emotional scars. Specifically, I would like to advise women who recognize this pain to get acquainted with lifetimes in which they were the offender slash perpetrator as opposed to victim, or if you find it difficult to access previous lifetimes, get in touch with the quote energy of the offender or powerful woman inside you. This may sound very strange, but the reason is this. When you have been the victim of sexual violence, this has caused a lot of anger in your energy field. There may be anger there from several lifetimes. Yes, unresolved anything in our fields, we it's up for being looked at right now. For me anyway, that's where I'm at. This anger blocks you and keeps you imprisoned in a feeling of powerlessness and victimhood. To release anger, you need understanding. You need to understand why and what for. You need to see the larger picture. When you can imagine yourself as a powerful woman who could be merciless and cruel towards men and feel inside that this is also a part of you, then anger can dissolve. And I know that's true because I've been able to see myself in this life and how I'm just saying. more thoroughgoing a more thoroughgoing understanding can arise, an inside knowing that you are a part of a larger karmic story in which you played both the role of offender and of victim. It is nearly impossible to release your emotions of pain, powerlessness, and victimhood without also looking at the other side of you, the dark side. This is why I used to call myself a dark worker, and I still do. I'm looking for the dark parts. The light parts, they'll shine regardless because they just will. I need to see the parts that are hiding. I need to see the parts that are running because when Sheila runs, I got up to 490 pounds running. I'm 63. Let's not be doing that no more. Back to the book here. You need not necessarily go back to past lives to recognize this dark part inside you. However, if you're drawn to me and you feel like you need to, hit me up. I am a BQH practitioner. I do help folks with regressions, and we can always get together and chat about the idea of doing that for you. I'm not in business or anything like that. It would have to be something that we both feel would be the highest best for all concerned, and then I am happy to assist you with that. So you can reach out to me at consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com if that's piqued you, if this whole, but in truth, it's really actually not necessary. But it has been very helpful for me personally, which is why I, became one and decided that that's how I would move through my life with that certificate. So you can also become more aware of it by watching yourself in your day-to-day life. Yeah, that's how I did it. But for the most part, I saw that part. There are other things that I haven't been able to see, but that part I saw just in this lifetime. When you feel this energy, for example, the will to exert power or hurt others, the will to exert power includes the desire to change someone who is not ready for change. That is a type of desire for power over other because you think you know better for them than they do. And boy, ain't that on the world stage right now? Folks trying to tell other folks what's best for them when in fact, no. I don't know. That's just something to feel into for yourself. When you feel this energy, for example, the will to exert power over or hurt others, you can sense that you have not only been the helpless victim of outside circumstances, um, there is a karmic tie between offender and victim. Both roles reflect aspects of yourself. Just because you're not able to see them or not willing to be open to looking for them, doesn't mean that they aren't there. As soon as you know and accept your dark side, you can look at your own inner wounds in a way and start to forgive. Goodness gracious, yes. I love what that psychologist Jordan B. Peterson has to say about the psychology of your dark side. A man who thinks he doesn't have one is more dangerous than the man who knows he does. Because you're not willing to admit that you do have a dark side. When there is understanding, anger can dissolve, and you can get in touch with the layers of emotions beneath the sadness, the grief, the pain that is there on many levels, also in the body itself. It is very important for women to acknowledge the offender aspect in themselves and to work with it. When there is hatred and grudges in you without regard to sexuality, realize that the more hatred and anger you feel, the more you identify with the role of victim, and the more you rob yourself of your freedom. Trying to feel inside you that in the area of sexuality, a karmic game is being played out in which you have fulfilled both roles, the good guy as well as the bad guy. From there, you can get to a place of forgiveness, forgiving yourself as well as someone else. Yes, I highly recommend all of this because it it's so freeing to see oneself exactly as you are. Understand that everyone has been traumatized and that we're all in this for the experiences. It's just helped me cut everybody else some slack and myself as well. Not some slack, all the slack, which I never cut before. Things happen for a reason. I feel that's a true statement there. Acts of violence and repression may seem meaningless, but there is always a story behind them. And whenever there is sexual violence involved, it leaves deep impressions on all four levels of the human being. Blockages in male sexuality. With regard to the male experience of sexuality, the blockages that occur are mostly on the level of the heart or the head. At least, at these levels, there may be a fear of surrendering, a fear of deep emotional intimacy. Most of the time, this fear reaches farther back than you can remember. It relates to the era in which women dominated men. This made the game of sexual attraction that initially was innocent and spontaneous threatening. Men learned that it was dangerous to openly show their emotions and open their heart to their partner. Within men, there are deep-seated fears about surrendering to their feeling side. And these fears need not necessarily manifest on the physical level. They may participate in the physical act of sex while keeping their feelings separate. So the man may be sexually present at the physical level while his feeling nature is partially absent. His emotions are locked away because of his fear to open up and become vulnerable to rejection once again. There are old soul remembrances there of being abandoned and emotionally scarred. Patience and love. In general, the energy blockages are somewhat different in men and women. Therefore, it is very important to communicate openly with each other about what you feel and sense when you are together. When you truly trust your partner, you can investigate without shame where your sexual energy gets stuck when you are intimate. This you can do by simply becoming aware when there is a flow of excitement and intimacy arising between you, to what extent you allow yourself to feel and express it. See if you feel stuck or blocked in any way, in any part of your body, or in any part of your emotions and feelings. Do you feel a warm glow in your heart when you are together? Do you feel a spiritual openness toward each other, toward the other? Are you prepared to meet the other in his or her totality? It sounds strange, but you are afraid of real intimacy. You all strongly desire a fulfilling relationship. On the streets, almost every billboard refers to the ideal of an emotionally and sexually gratifying relationship. But true intimacy of an emotionally and sexually gratifying relationship, no, I'm sorry, true intimacy frightens you. When someone else comes very close and you are asked to take off all your masks, all kinds of inhibitions arise that you were not aware of. In the moments that they surface, try not to judge yourself for it. Instead, see it as an opportunity to investigate those inhibitions and blockages within you. No one is free of them. I know that's true. I just feel with all of me that that's as true as the fact that everybody is traumatized because they go hand in hand. Nearly all people have blockages that prevent them from experiencing sexuality in the full sense that I described in the beginning. That is why I want to ask you all to look at the flow of sexual energy inside you with loving awareness, whether you are alone or in a relationship, and to treat those blockages you find with care and respect. Force is the worst counselor in these matters. Patience and love are vital. Keep the longing for Keep the longing for a true and complete experience of sexuality alive. You need not throw away the baby with the bathwater. The desire is sound. The road to a full and joyful experience of sexuality may be long and winding, but along the road you will grow love and compassion for yourself as well as for others. And this is so immensely valuable in your human world. You are healing an ancient history of struggle between men and women. The male and female energies want to come together again and join in a dance of joy and creativity. Now, I want to take a look at that. Here's a true statement, if ever I heard one. When you look on the planet and you see everything that has to do right now with gender identity, the male and female energies are inside everyone, no matter what sex you are, whatever body you're born into, right? It's an expression of self. I feel it's easy to misunderstand when one is more dominant than the other, but it is partly of this integration, what has been referred to as the sacred marriage of the male and female energies within the physical vessel of each and every individual, regardless of sex, right? Couldn't that really be seen to be displaying itself on the world stage in such a way, in such a distorted way as it would appear to be, right? Because people are confused about the energy. I mean, it's at least now this has nothing to do with having a judgment against because personally I feel like the whole entire human race is bisexual by in nature, and it expresses one way or another based on either trauma, desire of experience, uh, and or preference. That's, again, another conversation that I want to have. And if you feel so drawn, hit me up, consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com. So I'm going to read this again. You are healing an ancient history of struggle between men and women. The male and female energies want to come together again and join in a dance of joy and creativity. Anything that you contribute to this at an individual level has a positive influence on the collective soul of men and women. Your self-love makes the energies of patience and love available for others. Wow. Well, I loved this chapter, and it's a synchronicity. I was trying to get, record it yesterday, and I think maybe even the day before, but there's been some interesting information for me. I can see the reasoning why it didn't get recorded till today. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that you will like this, share this. Also, know that, like I said, it's in a playlist. And I'll be back with another chapter. Until then, I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. And until we meet again, my friends, be well.